Imagine a machine the size of a toaster. You put it in your home, prick your finger, 1 drop of blood, and in 30 minutes, it tells you if you have cancer, diabetes, or HIV. It sounds like magic. And for 10 years, the world believed it was real. Presidents believed it. Billionaires invested in it. Patients trusted their lives to it. The woman who invented it, Elizabeth Holmes, was called the next Steve Jobs. She was on the cover of Forbes. She was worth $4.5 billion. There was just one small problem. The machine didn't work. It never worked. Not even once. This is the story of the greatest lie in Silicon Valley history. A story of fake voices, stolen money, and a suicide that was covered up by lawyers. Welcome to the empty empire of Theranos. To understand the scam, you have to understand the actress. Elizabeth Holmes didn't just run a company. She played a character. She idolized Steve Jobs. So she dressed like him. Black turtlenecks every single day. She trained herself not to blink. She drank green juice. And most famously, she changed her voice. In private, she had a high, soft voice. But in public, she forced her vocal cords down into a deep, unnatural baritone. Why? Because she needed to dominate a room full of powerful men, and it worked. Rupert Murdoch gave her $125 million. The Walton family gave her $150 million. She sold them a vision of the future. She promised that her device, the Edison, would end the era of big needles. But while the investors looked at the vision, nobody looked inside the box. The laws of physics are stubborn. You cannot get 200 medical tests from a single drop of blood. There simply isn't enough fluid. When engineers tried to run the Edison machine, it was a disaster. The pipettes broke. The centrifuges exploded inside the casing. Blood splattered over the internal components. But Elizabeth didn't want to hear about physics. She wanted results. So Theranos began to cheat. When investors came for a demo, Elizabeth played a magic trick. They would prick the investor's finger, put the blood in the Edison box, and wait. But while the investor drank coffee, a technician would secretly run the sample to the back room. There, they would put the blood into a standard Siemens machine, a machine they bought from a competitor. They would print the results and hand them to the investor. See, Elizabeth would say, my machine did this. It was a lie. She was selling a Ferrari, but secretly driving a Toyota. Theranos wasn't a startup. It was a fortress. Elizabeth didn't just fire people, she hunted them. The office windows were made of bulletproof glass, not to keep people out, but to keep secrets in. When you worked at Theranos, you couldn't use LinkedIn. You couldn't talk to the person sitting next to you about your work. They tracked your keystrokes. They tracked your badge swipes. If you quit, you didn't just leave. You were forced to sign legal documents threatening to bankrupt your family if you ever spoke a word. One employee, Ian Gibbons, was the chief scientist. He knew the technology was fake. He tried to tell Elizabeth. She threatened him. The pressure was so heavy, the fear so absolute, that Ian took his own life. And Elizabeth, when she heard the news, she didn't send flowers to his widow. She didn't write a letter. She sent a lawyer to his office to steal his laptop. The secrets were more important than the man. Up until 2013, this was just financial fraud. Rich people losing money. But then, Elizabeth crossed a line. She put the fake machines in Walgreens. Real people started using them, and the machines started guessing. One woman was told her cancer had returned. She spent thousands of dollars on scans, terrified she was dying. The Theranos test was wrong. Another woman was told she was having a miscarriage. She wasn't. Her baby was fine, but the machine lied. Theranos wasn't just stealing money anymore. They were gambling with people's lives. But you can't fight the truth forever. A reporter for the Wall Street Journal, John Carrier, got a tip. He started asking questions. Elizabeth sent her lawyers. They threatened to destroy the newspaper. They followed his sources with private investigators. But John published the story. The house of cards collapsed instantly. The FDA raided the labs. Walgreens sued. The valuation went from $9 billion to zero. In the end, the fake voice didn't save her. The Steve Jobs costume didn't save her. In 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. They say Silicon Valley is about faking it until you make it. It works for software. It works for apps. But biology doesn't care about your marketing. You cannot code your way out of the laws of physics. Elizabeth Holmes wanted to change the world, and she did. She taught us that if a miracle looks too good to be true, it probably is.